Hi and welcome back to freeEduHub. Today, as part of the lab exercises, we'll be covering Snort. Now, Snort is a tool which is used to detect any malicious activity which is taking place on your network. As written over here, it's an open source intrusion prevention system, and it protects us from any kind of attacks which are taking place on your network by notifying the administrators. Now just be very clear about two things: intrusion protection system and intrusion detection system. The difference between them is that intrusion prevention systems would prevent any sort of attack which is taking place on your network, whereas intrusion detection systems will only notify the administrators that there is an attack which is taking place at a moment of time. Now, if we want to download it, there are two ways. You can click on downloads and you can go to Snort, and you can find different binaries for different operating systems over here. And as you can see, it is available even for Windows operating system. But we'll be setting it up on a Ubuntu operating system, which is really easy, and we'll see how can we detect that if there is any sort of penetration taking place on the network. Now on the other side, you have these rules available over here. Rules plays an important role because these are the signatures which are updated for any new activity or any new attack which fired anywhere else in the world. Now, in order to keep your Snort updated so that it can detect any sort of malicious activity on your network, you need to have rules. Now here in registered section, as you can see, it has been grayed out. It means that it is available for the people who have the subscription for that. And once they'll have the subscription, all these signatures will be automatically updated on their Snort, so they'll not have to worry about modifying the signatures themselves or updating them manually. It would be automatically updated. So we'll see how can we set it up on Ubuntu operating system and how can we use it. So let's go to our operating system. As you can see, I am on my Ubuntu operating system. I have already installed it, and I have installed the VM tools on it as well, so that you can easily copy and paste things between the host operating system and the virtual machine. So in order to install Snort on your computer on Ubuntu operating system, of course you'll go to the terminal window, and here you'll first of all go to the super user account and type sudo su and then provide the administrator password. Now you are connected as the administrator or the root user. It is distinguished, as here you cannot see this hash sign, but now it is showing it, means that you have the root access on this machine. Now let's try to check if Snort is installed on it or not. So we'll type Snort and then we'll type version, and it would show you that it is not installed, but it can be installed by typing in this command. So we'll paste the same command over here and we'll try to install. Now it would install and it would ask you certain things, and then it's asking you the network or the IP range of your network. Now that plays an important role because it would identify that how many computers are available on that subnet, so that it can easily identify the machines and can secure your network for any sort of penetration which is taking place on your network. Now you want to make sure that you are entering the right information over here, because if you'll not enter the right information, you'll not be able to detect any kind of activity which is taking place on your network. So in order to find the IP address of my machine, I'll open another terminal window and I'll type in ifconfig, and it would show me the IP address for my machine is 136.192.168.189.136. So we'll have to configure this one accordingly. So I'll enter 192.168.189.0/16 and then I'll press OK. Now as you can see, it is installing it on your machine, and it has identified that your Ethernet port is ENS33 as well. Now once it is successfully installed, you want to check it that if it is successfully installed or not. You'll type Snort and then you'll type version, and it would show you that it's the latest version of Snort which is installed on your machine. Now we need to check a couple of things on it just to make sure that it's working perfectly fine. So for that we'll go to files and we'll go to the directory of it where it is actually installed. So we'll go to the main folder and then we'll open this folder as etc. But as you know that we are trying to access the files which requires the elevated privileges, so we'll install or we'll try to open it as administrator. And if you remember earlier, we installed Nautilus on the computer with the help of which now we are trying to open this file as a root user account. And now if I'll go to etc, you can see that I can have Snort over here, and these are the files which are there for Snort. Now it is always recommended to create a copy of this Snort file because it would have all the rules which are required in order to run Snort on your computer. And I'll enter the password and it would open the Snort file. Now this is the basic configuration of it, where you can check it that it is defining the network type over here, your external network as home network, and rest of the things. Now since it is important that we need to identify the machines which are there on our network and the IP address of it, so we'll have to define it exclusively over here. But before you make any changes, it's highly recommended to create a copy of it and then work on the original one. So I'll create a copy of it and I'll paste it over here on the same folder so that I have a copy of the same file, so that in case if I'll make some changes in the Snort file which are not right, I'll be able to get it from the original file. So since now we have created a copy of our Snort file, which is the configuration file, we'll open it in the text editor. We'll provide the administrator password or the root password. And now we'll check it in this one that our first thing which we need to configure in this one is set the network variables. So this is our step number 1, which is the network variables over here. And in this one, we'll see that our home net is any network, but we need to define it as we defined it when we were installing it. So we'll try to enter the IP address over here, 192.168.189.0, and then slash, it was a 16 network. So we'll enter the details over here. Now once that's done, we'll not change any of the things over here, but we'll have to keep an eye on another thing, which are the rules. And rules plays an important role for different things, and the rules which are included or enabled on the Snort at the moment are the ones where we don't see this hash sign in front of it. It means that these rules are already enabled and they are stored in another path on the same folder. So in order to save the changes on this one, you'll save the file and you'll close it. And if you want to see the rules which are currently available with Snort, which are the default rules, you'll go to this rules folder and you'll be able to see all these rules which are available over here. Now these are the set rules. If you'll open and if you'll try to read the rules which are written on this one, you'll be able to see that there is a syntax of it, how they are actually defining it and what are the different vulnerabilities and how they are catching it. Now it is fairly simple to write these rules yourself, and in order to write the rules you can go to Snorpy, which is a very easy tool with the help of which you can generate your own rules. For example, if I want to create an alert for TCP, and if I want to give an IP address 168.189.10 and the destination, etc., so you can see that it is writing a rule over here which we can write ourselves, and we can save it on our Ubuntu files in this one. Now just be sure about one thing, that if you are trying to write your own rule, they must go on this local rules. And local rules are the rules that you would write, which are the custom rules which would be added over here. Now at the moment I'll not add any rules over here. I'll show you that how Snort would operate and how it would work if we'll make any kind of penetration to this machine. But before that, since we made some changes to the configuration file, we need to make sure that the configuration file is correct and there are no errors in that. So in order to check that, I'll type in a command over here, which is snort, and then I'll say -t, which is for testing the configuration of it. And since we are testing the configuration of it, we'll type -c, which highlights the configuration, and then we'll give the path of it, which is etc, and then we'll write snort, and then we'll type snort.conf, which is the configuration file. If you remember, when we were in etc, we went to snort folder, and in snort folder we had this file, so we are trying to check the configuration on this one. And if you'll press enter, it would check all the things and it would say that Snort successfully validated the configuration. It means that now we can check different things on this one. Now let's try to make it a bit interesting. As you can see, we have Kali Linux running on our right hand side, and if we'll type the ifconfig command over here, we'll be able to see the IP address of this virtual machine is 192.168.189.128. Whereas if we'll see the IP address of this virtual machine, it is 192.168.189.137. So now what I'll do is that I want to penetrate, or I would try to run nmap on my Kali Linux, and I'll target the Ubuntu machine, which has the intrusion prevention system installed, and it would detect it and it would tell us that someone is trying to scan the machine using an external tool or anything based on the rules which are there on Ubuntu and the Snort which we are using on Ubuntu. So in order to activate Snort on Ubuntu, we'll type sudo and then we'll type snort, and then we'll try to enter the command for this one. For example, if we want to see the output on the screen, we'll write -a for the display on console, and then we'll type -q just to make it a bit quiet so that we don't want to see any unnecessary information which is appearing on the screen. And then we'll give the configuration path of it, which is etc, then snort, and then snort.conf, and then we'll provide the interface of it, and as you remember, we saw it that it was ENS33, and we'll press enter. Now if it's blinking, it means that now it's listening to any traffic which is coming from any other external source. So in order to check it from Kali Linux, we'll run nmap, and then we'll type the IP address 192.168.189.137. As you know, 137 is the IP address of Ubuntu machine which is running Snort. And as soon as I'll press enter, as you can see, it has detected that someone tried to attempt to gather the information, which is the information leak, and the IP address of the person who tried to scan the computer was 128, which was the IP address of our Kali Linux, and it even showed that which port was used for that specific information. Now just to check another tool on this one, on Kali Linux we have information gathering tool, and in this one we have Legion over here. And if we'll execute it, I'll try to enter the IP address of Ubuntu which is running Snort, and then we can see how it would react if a tool is used to gather the information. So in order to add that, I'll click on this one and I'll enter 192.168.187.137, and then I'll press submit, and now it would add it, and as you can see, as it's scanning, it is trying to gather all that other information that some specific computer is trying to actually scan the computer, so we can be notified that someone on the network is doing some activities which are quite suspicious. Now we talked about the rules earlier. Let's stop it here, and if we want to cancel it on Ubuntu, we'll press Ctrl+C and it would cancel it in a while. Now in order to make the changes, or if we want to add certain rules to our Snort, what we can do is that we can go to other locations. We'll go to Ubuntu folder, then we'll try to open etc as administrator. Once we are there, we'll go to etc, and then we'll go to Snort, and we'll go to rules. And this time what I would do is that I'll go to local rules, I'll try to edit this file, and I'll put 2 rules in this one, with the help of which I will be able to capture some more traffic which is coming on this machine. Now in order to write the rules, we'll have to explain it in a way just like we'll comment it, and then we'll write the rules itself. So the syntax would be, I'll give it a command. For example, I want it to give me an alert on any FTP connection, for example, attempt if it's made on this machine. So the rule would be, I'll write alert if it is a TCP connection on any port from any destination, and I'll type in the home address or the IP address which shall be used, and for that I'll put this symbol, and then I'll type home. If you remember, that was the syntax of it when we were editing the configuration file on home network, which is on my local network, and the port is 21. Give me a message that FTP connection attempt, and then we'll close it. Then I'll give a SID, which is a security ID for this one, and we'll try to have it on 100,000 and above, because the first 100,000 rules are the one for Snort rules itself. So we'll give it number 1, and then we'll give it that it's a revision number 1 for this specific rule. Now we can do a similar thing for this one. If we want to have another rule for ping, which is ICMP, so we'll copy the same rule from here and we'll make the modifications on this one, but this time we'll write ICMP on this one, and then for this one also we'll change it to ICMP for any home network. But for this one we'll put any over here, that if it is coming from any connection, it would just capture it. So we'll save it and we'll close it so that we can check it on our computer, that if it is actually valid and if it is working or not. So we'll try to activate Snort once again. We'll write the same command, but before that, since we made any changes to the configuration file, we need to verify that if the configuration is perfectly fine. So we'll use the same command as snort -t, which is to test the configuration, and we'll press enter, and it is showing us that there is a error on this one because there are duplicate rules which are appearing on this one. And as you can see in the local rules, we didn't change the rule number or the SID for this one, so it has highlighted that there is a error on this one. We'll save it, we'll minimize it, we'll go to the terminal window again, and we'll try to run the same command again. And here, as you can see, Snort has successfully updated the configuration. So now we'll execute our Snort again, and as you can see, it's running. So if I'll try to ping the IP address, which is our Snort machine, and I'll press enter, as you can see now it's capturing even that traffic that someone is trying to connect to the machine using the IP address and the port, and all that other information is appearing on this one. So if we'll press cancel, it would stop it. But as you have noticed one thing over here, that actually we tried to send the ping command on this machine, but the message which is appearing over here is FTP attempt. The problem is that when we copied this message from or the rule from the FTP, we copied it exactly over here. Now it's not able to distinguish that whether it is a ICMP command or a connection attempt was made, or it was a FTP connection. Now that's the reason why we need to have a subscription with Snort, so that all rules which are being updated on the system are perfect and they do not have any sort of error messages on it. So if we have changed it now, I'll close it and I'll try to check the configuration file once again. And for that I'll put it we'll use the same command that we used earlier, and I'll start Snort once again, and now it's listening on it. And if I'll run the same command for ping on this one, now you can see that it is correctly identifying it, that it is a ICMP connection request. So that's how we can identify that if someone is trying to scan a specific computer, a specific workstation, or a server, you can easily identify it and take the corrective measures in order to stop those kind of attacks. That's it for today. Thank you very much.